Guys, how's it going?
Hey, Don.
What's happening?
Oh, not much.
No?
You're the only what was I gonna say? It's gonna be a little slower to search up the music today, just because it's on YouTube.
That's what I figured, yeah.
So just announce the show right away, and then Brandon's got the tabs open, so he should be able to just refresh it, and then it'll be good to
Okay,
go.
okay. Do you want me to give him the order, the initial order I've got? Just so he knows?
I think you can just bring it up. He'll bring it up quick enough. It
Okay.
won't be that too bad.
Okay.
Yeah, I got them
Okay,
all open. I
perfect.
just got to search for them. So if you say the name of the song, and then like even
Yep,
like a 3 second like interval, then I'll be good.
got it. Okay,
Perfect.
perfect. Sounds good. All right. I'm excited about this one. We got some good stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I'm a particular fan of the X Files theme, Don.
I knew you'd like that one. Wait, wait till you hear the one I'm gonna kick it off with. Oh, it's good. It's a beauty. One of my favorites.
All right, 4.5 minutes.
Excellent.
right, for our pre-listeners, we are about 45 seconds out. Listeners, we're going to start about 8 seconds too.
All right.
See you on the show. Good luck.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Don Parkinson, and I'm a Senior Consultation Specialist with SNC Lavalin. Today we are continuing our series of live stream topics on the Northern Road Link project as it moves through the provincial environmental assessment and federal impact assessment processes. The topics we are covering parallel our project activities, so we hope these will help our viewers and listeners better understand the project and provide input along the way. Just want to remind everyone that we are broadcasting on the Wabate Radio Network to help reach community members about our project. Listeners can call or text us with questions and comments about the project at 1-844-424-0500. That's 1-844-424-0500. We try to keep the show fun and informal while being informative at the same time. We also take music requests as long as you provide us with a comment or question about the project. So why don't we get started now? Today we're going to talk about feedback received to date on the Northern Road Link project as part of our continuing efforts to be transparent with project information and feedback. And we've received a lot of feedback on this project, as many people could imagine. And so we thought we'd just go through it. It's grouped by theme, and I think you'll find it really interesting as well. So just to remind everyone, they can call or text us with a comment or question about the project at 1-844-424-0500. I will note today that we are going to be playing some probably familiar music to you. We are going to have some fun and play theme songs from television shows. So get ready for that coming very soon. But what I'll do is kick things off by providing a bit of a background, as I normally do, about the project, just to get everyone up to the same level in terms of how informed they are about the project. So the Northern Road Link project is a proposed all-season road in Northern Ontario on Treaty 9 lands. It connects the Ring of Fire mineral deposits to the all-season highway network, ultimately via the proposed Martin Falls Community Access Road. And it will also provide an opportunity for Webequie First Nation to connect to the all-season highway network. The Webequie Supply Road is to the north of the planned Northern Road Link Road, and the combination of the two would take drivers to the Martin Falls area, which would then connect to the provincial highway network. Um, this project is subject to both Provincial Environmental Assessment Act and the Federal Impact Assessment Act. Proponents are Martin Falls First Nation and Webequie First Nation. Both of these communities are remote Indigenous communities, each approximately 500 kilometers north of Thunder Bay. And as I mentioned, they are remote. They are only accessible via winter road for a very short time in the winter. There have been a number of studies done in the region on an all-season road to the Ring of Fire. Uh, Finally, in 2020, Martin Falls First Nation and Webequie First Nation announced an agreement to work together where the communities agreed to conduct an environmental assessment and an federal impact assessment for the project funded by the province. So just to give people a bit of an idea of where the project is, we're looking at northwestern Ontario. The Webequie First Nation, or the Webequie Supply Road project, is northernmost, and it runs from Webequie Airport southeast to the McFalls Lake area in what's known as the Ring of Fire area. And then the planned northern road link would connect from there and run down to the vicinity of Martin Falls, where it would then connect with the Martin Falls Community Access Road, which would then connect with resource roads that ultimately would connect to the provincial highway network. So the idea is ultimately to enable economic activity by helping with the transportation of goods, services, and resources. So that gives you an idea of where it is and what it is, and gives you an idea of the other road projects that started at different times for different reasons. Even though they all connect together, there were different motivations and different reasons for the timing of these starting. So I think we're ready for our first musical selection of the day. It may take us a minute or so to find some of these songs because they're a little hard to find. But our first one that we're going to listen to today is a fun one. It's very recognizable for sports fans, and it's called the NFL Monday Night Football theme by a group called the Toners. So
Is
if our
that who did
team,
it?
I believe so.
Wow, I didn't know there was a group.
Well, maybe there wasn't, and maybe they just did an album of these. I'm not sure. I pulled it off Spotify, so
Well,
it's hard to say for sure.
we're good to go.
Excellent. Well, let's listen to the NFL Monday Night Football theme. That'll get everybody pumped up, and then we'll come back and talk about the project components, shall we?
Wow.
Wow.
Well,
Wow, that's great. Isn't that something, Tony?
yeah, I know I get a couple requests I dug up that I wanna play too.
Oh,
So
excellent. Good. Good. Well, I'm going to have another song for you in a second. These songs are really short, as you can
they're
tell.
really
So
short.
I'm going to do another quick little section, and then we'll come back, and I've got another fun one for you. And then if you want to inject your request
Sounds
after
good.
that, why don't we do that? Let's have some fun with this.
Sounds good.
Excellent. Okay, so let's move on and talk a little bit about the project components. Starting now, I've mentioned this a number of times in previous shows, and it's really important to keep reminding people about that. It's not just a two-lane gravel road. In fact, there's more to it than that, and we'll get into that in a little bit more detail. But the road itself would be what would be considered to be an all-season road, multi-use, all-season road, gravel surface. Right now, the road, because the final route has not yet been identified, there are route alternatives at this point in time, or corridor alternatives, I should say, at this point in time. Right now, the road could range from anywhere from 117 kilometers to 164 kilometers in length, depending on the combination of corridor segment alternatives that are put together. Um, the right of way would be approximately 100 meters with a cleared area of 60 meters. In terms of water crossings, there obviously would be numerous water crossings given the area. The structures used for these water crossings would be different types of culverts and bridges as well of different spans. Um, there is one large bridge crossing at the Attawapiskat River, which is greater than 200 meters. Would be greater than 200 meters in in width. In terms of what we call ancillary infrastructure, when I talk about ancillary infrastructure, it's the infrastructure other than the road. It's really basically the support infrastructure to the road. Some of this is temporary, some of this is permanent. Um, so these kinds of infrastructure components would include what you call storage and laydown areas for storage and laydown of equipment and materials. On those would be temporary, and then on a more permanent basis, you would have maintenance facilities and yards. In this case, probably two of them, I think, along the route in total. Um, then, of course, there's access roads. So, in order to get the material to build the road with, that would come from pits and quarries. And in order to get to those, because they're not always right beside where the road is, you need to build access roads to get to these areas. And these access roads would, of course, have water crossings occasionally. And so structures would have to be built or put in place, such as culverts. Um, Aggregate sites or pits and quarries where a construction material would be obtained, such as gravel, different sizes of rock, and then quarries would be used to be able to mine rock and then crush it to different sizes for different purposes, such as riprap stone that could be used to protect inlets and outlets of culverts. And then, of course, construction camps, which would be temporary during the construction phase. Um, these would be located along the route as well. So that gives, I think, people a bit of an idea of the components associated with the road. It's like I said, it's not just a two-lane gravel road. So I think we're ready for our next musical theme, and this one is a fun one. It's called George of the Jungle. It's by this version is at least by the TV theme players who do a lot of TV themes, obviously. Tony, do we have George of the Jungle?
Brandon's swung. He swung into the booth and he got it set up.
Well, that's very appropriate given that we're talking about a monkey in the jungle. So let's listen to George of the Jungle, and then we'll come back and talk about it and do some deep thinking.
George, George, George of the jungle, strong as he can be. Watch out for that tree. George, George, George of the jungle lives a life that's free. Watch out for that tree. When he gets gets in a scrape. He makes his escape with the help of his friend, an 888. Then away he'll schlep on his elephant ship, while Fella and Ursula stay in step. Well, George of the jungle, friend to you and me. Watch out for that tree. Watch out for that tree. George of the jungle, friend to you and me.
I feel like that song speaks to a part of me. It's just how I live.
I love that song. That's such a great song. When I was previewing it, Tony, it was an immediate, choice and an obvious choice. I like the primal scream. Oh,
Oh yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
great. That really adds to it.
Hope everybody's enjoying
Okay, I'll
this.
just. I hope so. I hope so. I know we are, right? So, just to remind everyone, they can call or text us at 1-844-424-0500. That's 1-844-424-0500. If you have a specific song request, I would welcome you to suggest a TV show theme song if you so desire. I think that would be appropriate. I'm already taking requests here from Tony, and I'm looking forward to the next song because I know he's got that one ready. So we encourage you to provide a song request, provided you give us a comment or question about the project. So let's continue along and start talking about some of the themes of the comments received on the project, and these were primarily received during the terms of reference period. So we've grouped them by theme, and I won't go through every single one in detail, but I will highlight some of these because there were some excellent comments, and they did help shape the terms of reference or the work plan for the environmental assessment as well. So from the mining industry, we received comments related to the regional assessment, asking about the relationship between the Northern Road Link environmental assessment and the regional assessment for the Ring of Fire. That's a federally led exercise, and so this is a question that's probably not appropriate for the proponent to answer. It's more for the federal government to answer through the Impact Assessment Agency of Canada. But we did receive comments on that. In terms of future mine activities, mine development activities, in terms of some of the comments were relating to ensuring that the road avoids known mine development or high priority exploration areas that might lead to future mine development. So just staying away from areas that are considered to have fairly high potential, high mining potential. Ensuring that the location of the road services mineral exploration and future resource development, which would that would help um, the development of the mining activities in that region, and then ending the road at the Mukatai airstrip as well. For logistical reasons. So those were some of the mining industry comments. We've got some additional mining industry comments here as well too, related to timing and phasing of road construction. The comment is expedited project schedule that would facilitate road and resource development to advance in a time frame that in a quicker time frame that will allow current generations and youth to benefit um, as much as possible from the roads being there and from the mining activities. Another comment about detailed construction plan that would allow for resource development to advance with greater confidence. Um, Alternative road development methods need consideration to speed up the schedule, using winter roads and temporary infrastructure. Um, the use of existing infrastructure or temporary infrastructure by mining and claim mining lease and claim holders in the Ring of Fire area as well too. So these are the kinds of mining related comments we've received. Other comments from the mining industry on the need for an estimate of road construction and operation workforce requirements, as well as a sort of a skills inventory, community skills inventory to be conducted to maximize participation by not only Martin Falls and Webequie community members, but other neighboring community members and other neighboring communities. And then road construction techniques as well to make sure that they comply with any MTO guidelines as well. So a number of comments from the mining industry, um, particularly during the terms of reference period. Uh, and I think now we are ready to go to another song. I will just remind everyone that they can call or text us toll free at 1 844 424 0500. That's 1 844 424 0500.
And
And
Dawn.
Tony, I would now pass this request on to you.
Well, Dawn, I'm going to use my request. We actually had a call in. Margaret phoned from Fort Albany First Nation.
Yes.
And she, I guess, had a cutout while she was listening to a previous show where you were talking about the 4 camp locations. So if you could just refresh about what those 4 camp locations would mean and maybe some background information, I think that would answer a question that cut out from the show she was listening to. And then
Yes,
I'll
Tony,
use that to do my request.
Yes, thanks, Tony. You had mentioned that to me the other day, and I was going to give Margaret a call back actually. And so what she heard was a discussion on the camp locations for the Webequie Supply Road project. We haven't identified potential camp locations yet for the Northern Road Link project because we have to finalize the actual identify a preferred corridor. But I can answer that question. So, Margaret, we have identified 4 proposed camp locations along the Webequie Supply Road route, and the number 4 and the location of the camps is basically driven by how to most efficiently build the road, essentially. So in that particular case, there was one. The first camp east of Webequie was uh, just outside of the community. Maybe 10 kilometers to the east, and then there was another one further down, further south of there, and then one at the eastern end, and then one in between. So one of them is driven by obviously, to some extent, the type of land that they would that is around. You're trying to do the least amount of have the least amount of environmental impact as possible when you decide where to put these camps. We go through a pretty thorough process of identifying the best locations that go in the least environmentally sensitive areas. And we work with community members to get their feedback too on the locations of these camps. So that's what's driving that. Those 4 camps were for the Webequie Supply Road project. But if you have any further questions, Margaret, I'd be happy to talk to you about that. I can also give you a call and explain it further if you like. So with that, Tony, maybe you can provide your song request. I'm looking forward to this one.
It's actually related to something you're probably going to play later, and it's I dug it up, and it's WKRP's opening theme, but there's a full song associated with it that Jim Ellis wrote, and it's about his how he moved to WKRP Cincinnati, and because he was sick of wandering around. So there's a full song they released as a full single, and it placed on the Billboard charts. So I thought, what a fitting choice.
Fantastic. Well, do we have that up and
We
ready to
have it up
go?
and running.
Perfect. Thank you, Tony. Let's listen to the WKRP in Cincinnati theme song.
Baby, if you've ever wondered whatever became of me, I'm living on the air in Cincinnati, WKRP. Got kinda tired of packing and unpacking, town to town, up and down the dial. Maybe you and me were never meant to be, just maybe think of me once in a while. Heading up that highway, leaving you behind, hardest thing I ever had to do. Broke my heart in two, but baby, pay no mind. The price for finding me was losing you. Memories help me hide my lonesome feeling, far away from you and feeling low. It's getting late, my friend, my love, I miss you so. Take good care of you, I've gotta go. Baby, if you've ever wondered whatever became of me, I'm living on the air in Cincinnati, WKRP. Got kinda tired of packing and unpacking, town to town, up and down the dial. Maybe you and me were never meant to be, just maybe think of me once in a while. I'm at WKRP in Cincinnati.
How's about that?
Wow, a full version. That was really
Full
good.
version.
Really. And you've got another one for later on too, don't you? You said.
I had the one, but I can make another one available. But
Okay, well, yeah, I'll keep another one in mind. I've got a good one coming up. I'm really excited about this.
excellent.
So, thank you for that, Tony. Let's keep on moving down the road here. Let's move on now to the Indigenous community comments. A lot of comments from Indigenous communities, which is fantastic. And uh, in terms of one theme was greater involvement in the project. So more involvement through future project milestones. Uh, More nation to nation format discussions between with with the proponents, with Martin Falls and Webequie First Nation as well too, which I thought was a really good suggestion. In terms of alternative methods, providing, I guess, what this comment relates to having other communities other than the proponents, other than Webequie First Nation and Martin Falls First Nation, having input into the criteria to assess advantages and disadvantages of alternative methods. Um, so expanding the I guess the range of voices to provide input on that. In terms of other comments, input on the alternatives, water crossings, alignment, aggregate sources. Uh, Again, this was comments relating to the need for other communities beyond the proponent communities to provide input on what types of structures should go there, um, types of bridges, where the crossing should be, the alignment of the road, uh, aggregate extraction areas, location and type. So other communities outside of the proponent communities wanting to provide very local input, very detailed input on this road as well. And also, they identified the need for what you call a disaggregated approach to reporting the results of input. So, reporting the results by First Nation as opposed to lumping them all together. But we do typically report them by First Nation because we were responsible during the terms of reference period for responding to each comment on the terms of reference. And we did group these by First Nation as well. And then moving to Aboriginal and treaty rights and interests. The terms of Another comment was the terms of reference and subsequent consultation and engagement plan should be written to adhere to the most stringent requirements associated with Ontario or IAC, Impact Assessment Agency of Canada's environmental or impact assessment process, which it is. So that is already being done. So it's adhere and satisfy the requirements of both the provincial government and the federal government as well. So I think we're ready for another song here, Tony. And this next one I'm kind of excited about. It's one of my favorite theme songs. It's from the Jeffersons, which was a
All
great
right, let's
show.
go.
It's called "Moving On Up." It's a beauty, just a classic.
That's one of
Great
my
show too.
one of my mother's favorite shows.
Oh, classic! Have you ever watched an episode, Tony?
Oh yeah, I grew up with it. It was one of my mother's favorite
Oh,
shows.
so you did watch it while your
Oh,
mom
for
was
sure.
watching it. Oh, fantastic!
Jefferson, Sanford and Son, everything.
Great stuff. That was all great stuff. Do we have that one up and running?
We're good to go.
Let's listen to "Moving On Up," the Jeffersons theme, and we'll come back and continue our conversation.
Well, we're moving on up to the east side, to a deluxe apartment in the sky. Moving on up to the east side. We finally got a piece of the pie. Fish don't fry in the kitchen, beans don't burn on the grill. Took a whole lot of trying just to get up that hill. Now we're up in the big leagues, getting our turn at bat. As long as we live, it's you and me, baby. There ain't nothing wrong with that. Yeah, we're moving on up to the east side, to a deluxe apartment in the sky. Moving on up to the east side. We finally got a piece of the pie. Well, we're moving on up to the east side, to a deluxe apartment in the sky. Moving on up to the east side. We finally got a piece of the pie. Fish don't fry in the kitchen, beans don't burn on the grill. Took a whole lot of trying just to get up that hill. Now we're up in the big leagues, getting our turn at bat. As long as we live, it's you and me, baby. It ain't nothing wrong with that. Oh, yeah, we're moving on up to the east side, to a deluxe apartment in the sky. Moving on up to the east side. We finally got a piece of the pie.
You know, Sherman Helmsley used to be a mailman before he was an actor.
Oh, he did he?
Yeah, and his son on the Jeffersons, he was only 11 years older than him.
Really?
Yeah. He was still delivering mail in the first season. He was still delivering mail in the first season of the show.
Jeez. Well, I've got something for you, Tony. This is hot off the presses. One of our colleagues, that you know well, has
Okay.
identified that her godmother's husband wrote the song for Different Strokes.
Oh, that's incredible.
So we're gonna let's add that. We didn't have that on our original list, but before we go close out today, let's play the Different Strokes theme
Different
song.
strokes play, okay.
So add that one to the list, and our research team can try and dig that one up. But isn't this great? This is
Oh,
we're
that's
really
wonderful.
digging up some cool information here. That's fantastic. Okay, moving along. Let's talk a little bit. Continue with the Indigenous community comments. Um, talk a little bit. Talk a little bit about some of the comments we received on Aboriginal and treaty rights and interests. And these some of these are really good comments. We got a comment that Indigenous knowledge and Indigenous land and resource use are components of rights and interests of First Nations, but don't represent all of the rights which are present in the project area. These rights extend beyond harvesting rights and omit cultural rights and other rights of importance. That's a great, great point. Really, really important one that we got a while ago. Another one, preliminary valued components. So these are the things that are identified as important things to be considered as part of a environmental assessment. So these preliminary valued components associated with Aboriginal and treaty rights and interests should include indicators. So indicators are ways of measuring things. So ways of measuring, let's say, impacts. So for Indigenous use of land and resources, another suggested way of measuring impacts would be the availability and fragmentation or breaking up of land for rights-based activities and other interests. So that's a really good suggestion, actually, because of course, sometimes linear infrastructure can because of its nature can like roads or power lines can fragment habitats, can fragment heavily used areas by community members that are used for whatever rights-based activities it might be, hunting, fishing, cultural purposes as well too. And then another suggestion with regard to preliminary valued components was suggesting the use of an indicator or measuring tool, which is the perception of availability of land for rights-based activities. So it's a little bit harder maybe to quantify, but it's a very good suggestion. And then continuing with Aboriginal and treaty rights and interests, some of the other preliminary valued components identified for a cultural continuity and well-being. They're suggesting that an indicator or a measurement impact or effect measurement tool might be cultural landscapes and safe access to travel routes for practicing rights. So another really good suggestion. And then another one was related to governance. As a valued component, with the indicator or measurement tool being changes to an Indigenous authority and jurisdiction through imposition of colonial regulatory processes. So some really good suggestions on the Indigenous community from the Indigenous community members, and we'll continue with a few more of those in a minute. But I think we're ready for another song. This one is a quicker one, but it's a fun one. It's Hawaii 5-0 by The Ventures. If our team can bring that one up, that's a fun one.
Well, I think he
Sounds like
was
they've got it
testing
ready.
Yeah, we're
Look at that. Well, it's ready. It sounds like it's not just. It sounds like this song's ready to go, Tony.
We investigated it. It's good.
You did, yes. It's very good. Let's listen to Hawaii 5-0, and then we'll come back.
classic, classic, classic
What
60s,
was
70s sounds.
that's a Beach Boys kind of vibe, isn't it? Eh,
It
with
is,
the
yeah.
guitar. Yeah, the Ventures. Yeah, yeah. That's a great tune. Fantastic tune.
Great choice.
Yeah, I kind of enjoyed that one. Okay, let's move along now before our next song, and continue with the Indigenous community comments. Another another group of comments we received was related to an important topic, which is weaving Indigenous knowledge into the environmental assessment. All components, so here's some of the comments here. All components of the physical, biological, and social environments must be assessed in an integrated manner to ensure Indigenous knowledge and information related to Indigenous rights is interwoven into the assessment process. Now, just to give people some background, historically, in environmental assessment documents, Indigenous knowledge was typically tucked away in its own little compartment, separate section. And the expectation now from the regulators, the people that review these impact assessment and environmental assessment reports when they're submitted, is that Indigenous knowledge be weaved into or woven into all aspects of the environmental assessment or impact assessment, which of course it should be, and so this is now happening. Another comment was um, input by First Nations other than proponents into the baseline conditions, mitigation measures, and residual effects follow-up strategies for each valued component related to their rights and interests or areas of concern. So again, this comment relates to providing opportunities for communities other than the proponents to provide input into baseline conditions and these mitigation measures. So expanding the involvement from the two proponent communities to other communities in the region. We also did receive some comments on odor as well. The comment was odor, or one of the comments was odor must be considered and assessed as part of the air quality assessment for construction phases. Because diesel powered construction vehicles have the potential to alter the environment through introduction of odor to an otherwise neutral environment, increasing avoidance behaviors and negative perceptions of harvesters and land users. So odor is something that's certainly monitored as part of, we look at air quality as part of the environmental assessment. We received comments on climate change, stating that the climate change assessment must also consider Indigenous perspectives and Indigenous knowledge to make sure that a holistic view is taken and applied. And this is a really important comment. When we visit communities and talk to community members and ask questions about observations on climate change, we get a lot of interesting stories about pretty significant changes that have occurred in relatively short time frames. So that's always a very important source of information, is talking to community members, particularly elders, about climate change. And then another category is commitments and monitoring, making sure commitments and monitoring related to potential impacts to Indigenous rights and interests are also developed, including conceptual monitoring plan and also assessed for effectiveness. Now, I should remind everyone that when an environmental assessment report is prepared and submitted, if it is approved, it is almost always approved with conditions and monitoring requirements. Some perpetual monitoring requirements, some for a given period of time. But the idea being is to make sure um, that there are no impacts that weren't expected. No surprises, essentially, is the best way to describe it. So that was a very good comment as well, too. We received comments on noise as well. Um, Participation by First Nations other than the proponents in the selection of noise sensitive receptors. Although noise, dissipates, it goes down in terms of distance. So more distant communities would not be affected by noise. Fish, wildlife, and vegetation existing species lists, expanding the number of communities to capture the range of species more accurately, because of course some species might be more local to certain areas, but they all occupy this perhaps the same water courses, particularly the big rivers. And then the health assessment, we got some interesting suggestions here. The health assessment should model a self-sufficient indigenous receptor um, in relation to country food harvest, and to address potential future safety concerns of indigenous harvesters. And then for any food tissue sampling program, that organs of species be sampled, because many community members consume organ meat as part of their regular diet. So some really good comments from community members when it comes to things like health, noise, odor, etc. So, Tony, I think we're ready for another song. If you've got, do you want to suggest one? If not, I can.
I noticed that one of the ones I wanted to play is Sanford and Son, but I just dug up something last minute that I think is going to blow your mind.
Oh, great!
So I'm not even going to say what it is. You figure it out, and then I'll say what it is after. I think
Let's
you'll
do
figure it out
that.
pretty quick, though.
Fantastic. Well, let's listen to the mystery song that Tony has chosen.
Just a good old boy, never meaning no harm. Beats all you never saw, been in trouble with the law since the day they was born. Straightening the curves, flattening the hills. Someday the mountain might get 'em, but the law never will. Making their way the only way they know how. That's just a little bit more than the law will allow. Just a good old boy, wouldn't change if they could. Fighting the system like a true modern day Robin Hood.
Oh yeah, that was the Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh, I thought it was. I didn't really watch that show much, but it sure sounded like it, so I thought it must be.
Waylon, they actually got Waylon Jennings, but it's just a quickie,
That was
so you
Waylon
can.
Jennings?
That was Waylon Jennings, man.
Wow, fantastic. Wow.
So if you want to,
Well, can I respond with a
Sure,
song of
sure.
my own right now? Okay. This one. Okay, let me let's come back with how about we do the Different Strokes one? Do we have that one up?
I believe we do. Yep,
Let's listen to Different Strokes and then we'll come back.
sounds good.
Now the world don't move to the beat of just one drum. What might be right for you may not be right for some. A man is born, he's a man of means. Then along come two, they got nothing but the genes. They got different strokes it takes, different strokes it takes, different strokes to move the world. Different strokes it takes, different strokes it takes, different strokes to move the world. Everybody's got a special kind of story. Everybody finds a way to shine. It don't matter that you got not a lot. So what? They'll have theirs and you'll have yours and I'll have mine. And together we'll be fine. 'Cause it takes different strokes to move the world. Yes, it does. It takes different strokes to move the world.
Wow, I haven't heard that in years.
Oh, that was great. Well, we'll squeeze in a couple more songs. Let me just move through a little bit more material
For
here
sure.
and talk a little bit about what's coming up or what's going on right now and what's coming up in terms of the environmental assessment process. Uh, Baseline data collection is currently underway. We're evaluating the different corridor alternatives. Um, we're getting input on the alternatives through consultation, in terms of routing, ancillary infrastructure, sources of aggregates and rock. Um, we're receiving input on criteria and indicators as well too. Baseline information and indigenous knowledge and indigenous land and resource use um, to establish sort of pre key project area features and resources that are valuable to communities. Just collecting all that information to be able to sort of in an informed way identify the preferred corridor and have a better understanding of impacts as well too. And then moving forward after round one, consultation round one of the environmental assessment phase that we're currently in, we have some future project milestones, some further down the road, including the evaluation of alternatives, selection of preferred methods, preliminary effects assessments, cumulative effects assessment, and then ultimately the preparation of a draft environmental assessment report or impact uh, uh, as well, impact report as well too for the federal agency, and then there would be the review of these reports as well too. So um, before we finish things off, I think we should try to squeak in a couple more songs here. I have one here that I really like. It's the theme from the Rockford Files. Do you know that one, Tony?
I saw that there. No, I don't.
It's a great song. Great song. You'll really enjoy it. I think you will. If we have that one up. Do we have
Yeah,
that one
let's
up?
go.
Let's listen to the theme from the Rockford Files, which was originally done by Mike Post and Larry Carlton.
This is Jim Rockford. At the tone, leave your name and message. I'll get back to you.
You are full of bullshit, my friend. I will sue you for everything you have. I will sue your ass.
Wow.
Wow, how'd you like the little blues guitar there, Tony?
Oh yeah. A little ruckus because it's a 70s, 80s show. A little bit of ruckus at the
Yes,
start of it.
wasn't that great?
Yeah, it's pretty good, man.
He was a private. So Jim Rockford was a private detective, and he lived in a trailer, Tony. And he was a
As
sort
most
of like an
detectives do.
irreverent, of course. And he was a bit of an irreverent guy, and he'd get these calls, and he'd go out, and each show would be a new case, always resolved happily at the end, of course. But he was a bit of a quirky guy, and his father was on. He had a character. There was a character on the show who played his father, who was a bit of a grumpy old guy. And
Yeah.
yeah, great. I love the theme song. Always loved the theme song. So. Well, we're almost ready to wrap up here. I want to squeeze in one more short song before we go, so I better pick up the pace here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about consultation and engagement coming up. Obviously, we're always looking for community meetings and meeting with communities in person. We have open houses coming up in September in Thunder Bay and as well as Geraldton as well, I think. And we are also conducting virtual community meetings coming up. We do these things, live streams and radio shows. We do our radio shows on the Wabate Radio Network, like right now. We do live streams as well, and we record these and make them available. And the topics we discuss parallel the environmental assessment process and special technical topics as well. In terms of where we are in the federal impact assessment process, there we have completed the initial project description as well as the detailed project description. Um, an impact assessment is required, a federal impact assessment. We learned that on May 23rd, and we will be getting our final version of the tailored impact statement guidelines by August 20th as well. So that will keep you all up to date. And let's see if we can squeeze in one more quick song. I'm looking at the Office theme by the Michael Scott Fan Club. Can we play that one, do you think, Tony? Squeeze that one
I
in
think we
there?
do.
Beautiful. Perfect. Let's listen to the Office theme.
We just ramped down so you could say goodbye, Don. You have 15 seconds.
Overview of the feedback received on the project to date. Don't forget to keep in touch with our project team and visit our website, northernroadlink.ca. Miigwech, and see you soon.